Well, I think it's time now that through the magic of Skype, and you know how much fun this is for me.
It is magical.
And of course, it's 7:30 L.A. time. I'm calling a little early, so hopefully this is okay.
Oh, we're going to hear sleepy voice.
Don't get me started, Dave. Oh, here we go.
Hello.
I'm looking for the lovely Caroline Pearce. It's Mike Richards calling from rawmikeRichards.com.
Hi, Mike. It's Caroline speaking. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you. And of course, I realize now. I don't know if you get this a lot, but there I am going, and because the lovely Lisa Varga, our mutual good friend.
Yes. Hi, Lisa. She's listening. I know she's listening this morning.
I know she's probably watching because we're live on camera as well. So just so you know, hope you look good. And
oh God, don't tell me I just got out of bed. I'm on the West Coast.
and I'm watching after, I guess, it was the Nate Diaz fight, and I'm watching this lovely woman interviewing one of my favorites. See, I have an Irish background, so we tend to stick together. And
You're a Conor fan.
I need to hear from a real God, is what I'm talking about. And there he is. He's being so honest with you after that defeat of Nate Diaz. And and what are you coming up an escalator or whatever it was you were doing?
We were going.
I've never seen anything like that before. And guess what? I thought that in terms of talking to the real person and maybe not even the real God show, I thought that was a tremendous interview, and I was so gravitated towards that particular moment just because of the way it was shot, the conversation that you had, and I didn't realize at the time that was you. I didn't realize that. Oh, my
really?
No.
Oh, thank you. That interview's had so many eyes on it because it was just really raw. It was obviously appropriate for your show. It was just really raw. I mean, we had this moment where they said to us, you can talk to him, but only if you're willing to walk and talk to him. We've got to get him to the press conference right away. So my camera guy's walking backwards. I'm like holding the wires, and we're kind of backing up, and then you could see the camera's going up and down, and Conor's guiding us where to walk. And yeah, I think he earned even more fans from that because, like you say, it was so real, and it was one of those things like when you interview someone that's won a fight, it's easy, they're great energy, they feel good. But when you interview someone, and such a big star as well, who's suffered such a big defeat in such a public way, it is hard to know what to kind of say. So for me, I just go initially for the emotion, what's the emotion, and then talk a little bit tactically about what happened. But he was immediately really reflective on what had happened, really intuitive as to, what had just taken place, even though it was probably only 20 minutes before.
But
thank you.
That's a great way of putting it too, though, Caroline. I think reflective, and I think a lot of people don't really see that because he's a showman. He puts on a show. Now, can you explain what happened last night? Because it was in Dublin, and one of his Irishmen win. It was Bellator, and I don't know if you saw it, but he jumps into the octagon. He's so excited, he hugs his guy. But then the official, obviously it's not Conor's fight, tries to push him out, and then he slaps him.
Well, I know the official well. Yeah, Mark Goddard's the official is an English guy, and he's doing his job.
Yeah.
If Conor just waited, I think he just waited like another 5 minutes, he would have been allowed in the octagon to, like the family and friends are, to kind of congratulate and whatever. But he did so while the other guy, the opponent, was knocked out on the floor, the other side of the cage. He hadn't even been seen to and hadn't been attended to. So Mark Goddard's just doing his job and pulling Conor off. And yeah, I don't know the ins and outs. I've seen it in the news as sure you have, but I don't know the ins and outs. But the thing is, now they're talking about Conor potentially, what the repercussions for that are. Other fighters like Roy Nelson and others that have had a similar situation where they've shoved a referee in the past, they've had up to a year ban.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting what they do with Conor. He's their star, he's their moneymaker. Are they going to be some special circumstances for him?
Yeah,
because we were hoping he'd fight at UFC 219 December 30th in Vegas. So we shall see.
And that's exactly it. Good morning, Caroline. It's David Bastel here. I wanted to ask you about that. Dana White has gone on record saying he wanted to see Conor McGregor fight by year's end, and we're sitting here in the middle of November, and after this incident yesterday, it might be a while, won't it?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think he might be on the March card instead if he doesn't make this December 30th one. Conor wanted to fight by the end of the year. The UFC did, but then there was all that talk about he wants a stake in the company to make it happen. Dana White told us at UFC 217 the other weekend in New York, he said, look, we always get deals done with Conor. That's not a problem. We'll sort something out. So we were all feeling quite hopeful. But with this, I don't think they might well let him. It's just the time it will take to go through legally what they can and can't do and what fine or whatever there be. we're losing time in that fight being confirmed. Do you know what I mean? And both fighters getting ready. So at this point, it seems unlikely, unfortunately.
Okay, let me throw something at you that you may or may not have seen. It just came down, actually, our news wires about 45 minutes ago. Oscar De La Hoya has come out and has publicly stated that he will come out of retirement to fight Conor McGregor, and that he's been secretly training, claims to be faster and stronger than ever, which is kind of interesting because he's 44 years old.
Yes.
Is this something, in your opinion, that A, as a broadcaster, you want to see, and B, is that something that Conor McGregor would entertain, considering what we saw a couple months back with Floyd Mayweather?
Oh, yeah, I read the headline. I haven't read the whole thing on it this morning, but yes and yes. I mean, I did an hour interview with Conor in Glasgow, where it was a sit-down for an organisation called Kong Events, and literally it was on stage, 3,000 people. It was him and I talking on stage, for this show. And in it and afterwards and backstage, I just got the impression he'd be up for anything. If it's going to earn him money and, eyes on things, I think he'd be up for anything. I think his priority is to defend his belt first. I think he knows that's something he has to do. And then the Nate Diaz fight for the trilogy, I think something that will happen. But after that, I'd say 100% if there's some kind of big offer like that will earn a lot of money and that will have lots of eyes on it, that he'd go back into boxing again and fight another legend. I think so.
So the GSP potential of where that fight would be with Conor McGregor, I'd be torn a little bit because it's both the Irish side and the Canadian side. But people ask me all the time. They said, "Look, I'm a pretty decent guy." They said, "But if Conor McGregor wasn't Irish, would you like him?" And that's a very tough question because
people do. People aren't Irish do like it.
Well, when he was going on, with Mayweather and they went to the different towns, there's no question. I mean, you were there. The more popular guy, even in American cities, was Conor McGregor.
Yeah. I know Conor well. I like him a lot. You know what I like about him? He's really real in the sense that all the people around him, his girlfriend, his teammates, his coaches, they've been there with him from the beginning, from when they were all sleeping on the gym floor, had no money. These are the same guys that he's now so loyal to, that he's brought through with him and support. Just that incident at Bellator, he jumps in the cage, congratulates his teammate. He's so passionate about what he does and the people around him. And so I think, underneath the bravado, which is something that comes completely natural to him, I don't even think it's an act most of the time. I think it is just a really loyal guy. I think that's that kind of stoic Irish thing as well, where he comes from. He's a genuinely loyal guy. So I think regardless of all that and regardless of being Irish, I think he's got fans all over the world. Anywhere we go with him where he fights, he's the most popular fighter, or he's at least getting people talking.
Well, do you think if there was a fight then, and people say, where do you think it would be? But if they had it in Dublin, if we're talking GSP now, and someone said,
talking GSP.
Would it be in because I can't? Crow Park is a hallowed Gaelic athletic association. It's a GAA cathedral. It's a shrine to Gaelic athletic sports.
And there's lots of issues with making that happen, isn't it? With it being outdoors and it being Ireland. Yeah.
I don't know where else because Aviva, I guess, and that's where they play.
What weight
footy,
do you think it would take place at? Do you think it would be welterweight?
Well, I mean, what weight do they do? I mean, what would be the grade weight that they would fight at? What weight do you think it would be?
I mean, it could be 155 or 170 because GSP wasn't a big welterweight, was he? Before, obviously, he moved up to middleweight to fight this thing, but he wasn't a big welterweight. So potentially he could go down, and that's Conor's most comfortable weight, I'd say.
Yeah.
But Conor's also fought at welterweight, but against a Nick Diaz, who's also a bit more of a lightweight anyway. Naturally, so I don't know. But both of them are champions. Who's going to agree to go into the other's territory?
Exactly.
Yeah, and the only thing, Caroline, with the GSP weight thing, when he fought Michael Bisping, that's maybe the thickest and the biggest I've seen GSP, and maybe with age and being out of the ring for a while, he's having a hard time cutting weight. I don't know. These things happen as you get older, so that might be a little bit of a problem as well.
That's definitely an option. I was listening to him on Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour, actually, and he was just saying how many issues he had with that extra weight. That he was saying the morning of the fight, like he threw up his breakfast, he wasn't keeping anything down. He initially put on a lot more weight in camp and had to bring it back down again because he just wasn't mobile and had the same agility and speed at that weight. So it was he said it's as if his body was rejecting the extra weight. It wasn't, so going up wasn't where he was comfortable at all.
Now, Carolyn,
and he's even now not even committing to the Whittaker fight. You know, it's in his contract to defend his middleweight belt to Robert Whittaker, and even now he's saying, "Oh, Whitty, you know, things change." So I don't know. Maybe going down. It's more in his mind, but.
Sorry, we're in.
But no one's confirmed that fight will happen with McGregor, have they? I think that's just all talk at this point.
It is talk, yes.
Well, it will be interesting nonetheless. We're in conversation with Caroline Pearce here on rawmike.richards.com. You can watch from the website or, as you're doing right now, live on YouTube on the dedicated YouTube channel. Now, looking at UFC as a whole, Caroline, sometimes when I see past champions coming back or those that toy with retirement and come back, I'm always a little wary about the blood of the sport, and that is because youth is the most important thing, I think, to any sort of in this case it's a professional league. And I look at the overall sort of, I guess, interaction around the world with fighters. Is it healthy? Is there any point where you sort of look at it and become concerned that it is not maybe what it started? Now, nothing can really truly be what it started out, but there's got to be a consistency. And I just wonder, is there a thought with some of these older fighters coming back, and they're the bigger of the draws, is there a problem with UFC?
Problem with UFC? What do you mean? Is in the safety and how they look after them?
The engagement with audience, because again, when you're seeing older fighters come back or they're in the twilight of their careers, I'm always concerned that there's not where do you look at the young and upcoming fighters? Because they're not more popular currently right now than the ones that are coming back.
Yeah. I think the ones that come back do it because they look at how the landscape of the UFC's changed. I mean, it's grown in popularity so much. The Ronda Rousey, the Conor McGregors that have just brought so many eyes to it from outside its immediate circle that I think these fighters think it wasn't like that when I was, involved. I want to get back. I want a little bit of a taste of that limelight again. With GSP now, with all the, more strict and rigid drug regulations, he felt more comfortable coming back in. I don't know. I think for a lot of them, they don't know anything else. They stopped fighting, and that was their life. They don't know or do anything else. So a lot of them, like even Bisping said after that last fight, he's like, I'm not sure I'm going to retire yet. He said, I don't know what else to do. This is what I do. So you're right. I think they're still the ones that are getting the eyes on it, and the young ones. There's just been this trend towards the money fights. The money fights. I mean, McGregor Mayweather was an example of that. It was the money belt. But even within the UFC, genuine or number one contenders are being overlooked for somebody that's going to make a bigger headline, more pay-per-view, etc. So I think that is an issue. But I think most of the fighters get it. They realize, and I think a few of them are adapting other things they do and the way they speak, almost a bit of the Conor McGregor effect, if you like, to get more attention on themselves. Because they realize that it is a sport, but it's entertainment, isn't it?
Oh, fully entertainment. And, that sort of leads me into, speaking of entertainment, obviously you bring a certain pizzazz to the camera. This is what I'm using today, pizzazz. But your
I'll take it. I'll take that.
Your background is fantastic. I always have a lot of respect for national amateur athletes. And when I saw that, your involvement with, heptathlete. Now, when I was out in Calgary for 6.5 years, so I got to know a lot of the national athletes, including Jessica Zelinka used to come on the show all the time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you would a lot of athletes here, like cyclists, they will transition to winter sports. Sometimes it's speed skating, sometimes it's bobsled. Yeah. But people would think in Great Britain, where are you? What is it, Big Ben? What are you sliding down? Like, how are you doing this?
It's really funny. Well, I was in the peak of my athletic career, track and field. It was going great, and a former teammate, heptathlete of mine, had joined the British bobsled team a few years before. And she just called me up and she said, look, we're looking to increase the strength of depth in our team. Do you want to try out? And I was a strong athlete. My strength to weight ratio was really high, and I could clean and jerk almost 90 kilograms, whatever that is in pounds. But so she took me along to trials at Bath University. So at the University of Bath, they've got an outdoor push track. So it's not on ice. It's basically on runners, but they can time you doing the push, like the bobsled push, and see how you get into the sled and whatever. So I literally did that, and I broke all their push track records for that push part. And then I found myself less than a month later out in Calgary, training with the team in preparation for the World Championships. This was 2005, I think. It was quite surreal. But I remember standing there the first morning at the top of the track in Calgary thinking, how did I get here? It's like 6 in the morning, my eyelashes have gone crispy, my contact lenses are frozen to my eyeballs. I was like, what am I doing here? I'm normally prancing around a track, with a coach to kind of help me warm up and, my own lane. And but it was one of the best experiences of my life. It was a great time. I did that for a couple of years.
And Dave,
but the British team do recruit either people from the military, like the army, or they recruit other track and field athletes. We've had Lindsay Christie do it. We've had some big names in track join our British team.
And David has actually, was it the bobsled you did, Dave?
Did the bobsled track in Calgary? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were probably in Calgary at the same time, Caroline. I was in Calgary in 2005, 2006.
That would have been the same time.
Yeah, I was doing a television reporter contract for a national station called The Score, and Mike was the best morning show in Calgary at the time. So.
I was a real god, Caroline.
I love the accent.
Now this is interesting too. So you go from this, and you end up in broadcasting, but not only broadcasting. You could be, involved with footy, which people would probably think is a natural, or track and field, which of course, but UFC, now UFC. So how does that happen for you? How does this come about?
Yeah, a lot of things in my life have come about in a kind of obscure way. The same way bobsled came about. It was never something that was on my radar. But BT Sport, which is the British network I report and host for, they launched as a channel only sort of 5 years ago, and they got in touch with me. Well, they're speaking to my agent about getting me involved in some way, and I've been doing various sports broadcasting and on some reporting on things like the world's strongest man, British superbikes, a bit of track and field, that kind of thing. And they wanted to get me involved with the channel, and we were talking about MotoGP and things that that I had a background in or some experience in. And then out of the blue, I was on my holiday, on my vacation, and I had a call from my agent saying, "Oh, they want you to kind of anchor the weekly magazine show on the UFC." I remember thinking, oh, okay. I could name 2 fighters, and it was GSP and Anderson Silva at that time, like 5 years ago. It wasn't something I'd grown up with or was very aware of. But luckily, my boyfriend at the time used to be a fighter, not for the UFC, but a different organization. And we just sat for the rest of that holiday, and we just watched tape, and I just threw myself into it, like every day, just living and breathing it, meeting fighters, and they gave me this weekly show, which then led on to getting out to the events and hosting them live, and then UFC Fight Pass wanted me to cover the European events for them as their reporter, and then Fox Sports offered me a contract for the kind of Asia and European events, and a contract which meant I could come out to the US as well. And it sort of all went from there, and I continue sort of mainly as the US correspondent for BT Sport while I'm here in the States.
Well,
so it's funny how things work out. It was never on my radar, but I just fell in love with the sport, and I've just thrown myself into it. I've done training, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, just so I can read the sport and understand it better, and got some great friends in the sport now as well.
Well,
so it's been a funny journey.
It's been, and here's the thing: it's been such a lovely time, delightful. You're just an absolute delight. But now I'm going to say something, and you go, okay. Now I don't like him.
Okay.
Now, okay, and here's what it is. And my audience is going to know what I'm talking about. Dave doesn't know, and I know Russell doesn't know what I'm about to say.
Oh,
right.
Because as I'm looking at the resume, there is something on your resume that I started to laugh because I found the sport by mistake and started making fun of it, and it made a lot of people mad in a certain part of the world. Can you guess what
Hit me with it.
Kabaddi.
Kabaddi. Oh, yeah.
What the hell is that,
Some people
Caroline?
don't even know what it is.
Guys are touching their hands. They're holding their breath. They're trying to squeeze away from other guys, and it looks like a slap and tickle event. I have no idea what that thing is. And people are they?
It's violent. It's a really physical sport. And this is another thing that came my way. I don't know how I ended up in these things, but exactly a year ago, actually, or just over a year ago, I went out to India to work for Star Sports India, hosting the World Cup of Kabaddi. But don't laugh, Kabaddi is the second biggest sport behind cricket in India. Yeah. Millions of people.
They don't like me. They don't like me. The comments said no. They don't like
now.
Me. No.
I have a lot of Indian followers on Twitter if they're watching. But and I had to go into Kabaddi school. I was in Mumbai, and every day I was turning up at Star Sports to go into Kabaddi school. Then I had to learn how to pronounce every team's name because it wasn't easy. Even there was an American team, there was an English team, I think there was a Canadian team, and the Americans were full of former American football players. British team seemed to have a lot of rugby players in. Sure. The Australian team had a lot of rugby players in. But the teams that have been playing it for a long time, like India, South Korea, Iraq, all those teams, it's fast paced. They're throwing each other around. It's not holding hands and tickling and whatever. But the interesting thing is, as they're making their raid, they have to do a raid into the opponent's quarter or half, if you like. They have to chant the words kabaddi under their breath. So they're going kabaddi, 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 kabaddi for the 60 seconds of the raid. If they break that, what they call it a can, they're out. You know, the team turns around and the other team go into offense. But it was a fun sport. And then we ended up in Ahmedabad, where the tournament took place. You know, millions of people. We couldn't walk down the street. Millions of people were tuning in. But if you've ever been to India, it's just the most eye-opening, crazy, but yet spiritual place you'll ever go. It was a really awesome experience.
You have, as they say in North America, you have really rounded all the bases in this career so far, and still going. And you know what? Thank you so much.
I'm wondering what's next.
Oh, well, so are we. Trust me, I'm glued to this one. Well, I appreciate you getting up with us and talking with us on the air today.
My pleasure.
I said you're just lovely, and you do a great job, and we're looking forward to certainly more of your work wherever it may take you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up with you again, but you were just delightful here today.
Thanks, Mike. Great to talk to you.
That is Caroline Pearce joining us here. Does also Fox Sports and BT Sport out of Los Angeles.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep.